Trying this again. I recorded earlier, but I felt like really nervous. So, hi, and welcome back. Before we start, go ahead and click subscribe for leftist commentary I'm sure you won't find anywhere else. It is lovely to see you again, comrades. Okay, so this week, we're talking about probably my favorite thing to complain about since the 2020 Democratic primaries, which is all of my gripes with neoliberalism. I have many. Of course, I've seen a lot of conservative content creators kind of lay out their issues with the Democratic Party, but I haven't seen really anybody on the left do it. So I decided that I would be the one to do it. I'm gonna be going kind of point by point with all of my individual issues, at least the bigger ones that I could really think of. Without further ado, let's get into it. That was awful. Let's get into it. So, my first big issue is, of course, that liberals and conservatives both uphold capitalism. Of course, in a capitalist society, we all currently uphold capitalism. I mean, that's how we function in society. But I think what a lot of liberals fail to realize is that the issues that they are against, racism, wage gaps, even body shaming, are all connected to the US capitalist model. Most politicians hold high enough offices that they end up becoming millionaires, hoarding wealth away from the working class. The only difference between a conservative politician doing this and a Democrat is that the Democrat actually claims to care about the people it's making suffer. Not a great look for Democrats. Also, on the same coin, I see a lot of liberals just straight up practice classism in their everyday lives. So obviously classism is a natural byproduct of capitalism, right? Discriminating against somebody because of their socioeconomic status. Usually though, progressive beliefs are founded in a pretty Marxist way, at least ethically. Supposedly, liberals don't like wealth gaps and look down on discriminatory behavior like that. Ironically though, all the classism that I seem to be perpetuated in everyday life is usually by liberals. My friend Quinn brought up a really great point about how there are many valid things to critique conservatives on, yet Democrats always end up going for kind of the economic digs, like illiteracy and rural life. Again, really not a good look. Okay, this one was kind of a really big coming to Jesus moment for me this year. Number 2, trivial pursuits in the name of social justice. One of the biggest things that made me realize that I didn't really align with neoliberalism in general is the way in which they fought for the type of change I thought we both wanted. Liberals time and time again performatively improve societal conditions through effectively pointless means. My favorite example of this is the Litterbug phenomenon. In 1967, ad councils started pushing for legislation that would put the blame of climate change basically on the consumer with slogans like "every bit counts." This campaign was so successful that it still holds a really strong place in people's minds today. I mean, think about it. Every day people tell you not to litter. The irony of this legislation, though, is that it was passed so that companies like Coca-Cola and Exxon could continue pumping billions of gallons of pollutants into our air and water. Coca-Cola uses 3 billion liters of water per year, which is 2,000 times the average person. And that's just one company of thousands that is pumping pollutants into our environment. Democrats pass performative legislation like this so that they can seem like they're actually doing something for the earth while still being funded by these huge corporations. This same argument can also be applied to the way that Democratic politicians co-opt radical grassroots movements like Black Lives Matter, commercializing it so that they can make a profit and still maintain their public face. A capitalist is a capitalist, people, red or blue. I also want to say that I think this trickles down into everyday practices that I find super problematic, like not being able to differentiate the harmful from the immediately harmful. Take a white girl wearing box braids, for example. Though cultural appropriation is real and is an issue, a white girl named Becky wearing box braids isn't an immediate harm to me as a Black woman. What is immediately harmful to me as a Black woman are racist drug policies, the prison industrial complex, and discriminatory medical practices. Those are all a product of a system that is built on anti-Black racism. Now, does a white girl wearing box braids perpetuate that power dynamic that the system creates? Of course it does. But if you treat the cause rather than the symptoms will cease to exist. So while I think these things are noble fights, I think they're fights that are worth fighting, I think we need to have a list of priorities, and I think we need to have some bigger and smaller priorities. I have no idea why the achievement gap isn't a bigger priority for us. This is my favorite one to get into, especially somebody who was an ex-Obama stan. Obama stan culture. This is a big one. So loyalty to the Obama administration has been a big problem. I mean, ever since he was elected. Luckily, in the past years, people have kind of come to their senses about what was wrong with that administration. But if you are still riding the Obama train, I am here to crash it for you. Now, Obama was popular for many reasons, from his message of hope that promised a more progressive America for all of us to his charming personality. I mean, even his beautiful family. Everybody loved him. Though, what made him the most popular, arguably, was because he was Black. In 2012, I remember Epic Rap Battles made a rap battle between Mitt Romney and Obama, and Mitt Romney said something like, "You're a decent politician with a winning complexion." And I remember being like, as an 11-year-old Black kid, and being like, that's so petty, like, shut the fuck up, Mitt Romney. But in retrospect, they were kind of right. And that line was kind of fire. So it hurt me to admit, and it hurt many other Black Americans to admit, Obama was big because he was Black. Democrats knew how loyal the Black voter was and how strong white guilt is, and so they milked his race for everything it was worth. For this reason, we considered his Blackness before his policies, which was wrong. One of Obama's first big mistakes was just barely saving us from a depression after the 2008 recession. Instead of pushing for the stimulus that most economists recommended at the time, he actually did the literal bare minimum, creating more unemployment rather than less. And the Obama administration also made this country a great place to live if you were a rich person, through tax breaks, payouts, and purposeful withholding of government spending through corporate interest. It was insane. Personally, though, the most egregious part of Obama's administration was his imperialism and foreign policy. Upon inauguration, Obama immediately expanded the Afghanistan war, which over 51% of Americans opposed at the time. But because none of us wanted to question our Black messiah, the same anti-war leaders who were picketing Bush 4 years earlier were now celebrating Obama's war power. How does that make sense? Over the course of his presidency, Obama spent about $20 billion fueling the war in Afghanistan. And at the end of his presidency, Obama had launched over 500 drones into the Middle East, killing civilians and soldiers alike. From his shitty social programs to feeding the prison industrial complex, I honestly could not cover everything that he's done wrong in this video, so I implore you to do more research on your own time. This one is way more just anger-based, but my last one, and the straw that really broke the camel's back for me in terms of breaking myself off from the Democratic Party, the 2020 Democratic primaries. By 2020, I had steadily been losing faith in the Democratic Party's want for actual material change. But Bernie Sanders' campaign drew me back in. He was different than any other politician that we had seen, and we loved it. He had years of humanitarian and social justice work under his belt, in addition to hella experience in public office. Bernie promised free college tuition, legalized marijuana, and increased taxes on billionaires. I mean, the guy was awesome. He seemed to embody everything progressives claim they want to achieve. Yet when they had the chance to create this future for all of us, they failed. Democrats were genuinely terrified by the way that Bernie threatened to disrupt the system, because they'd always really been comfortable where they were. The people Sanders was trying to help, students, people of color, the working class, were not the majority of Democratic voters. The majority of Democratic voters are the phony person I've outlined today. A white, middle-class American with just enough small moral victories under their belt to sleep at night, but nothing that'll disrupt their normal life. So out of literal desperation, Democrats clung to a familiar face, Joe Biden, the right-hand man of the same imperialist I was talking about in the last segment. Middle East bombing, woman sniffing, Joe fucking Biden. The 2020 Democratic primaries proved to me that Democrats aren't about shit. I don't really know what they're about, but 2020 was definitely the year for me of realizing that no part of our society is safe from capitalistic greed, and we have to be comfortable questioning the systems around us, whether it's easy or not. Okay, thanks for sticking with me so much through that. I know that was like a lot of information and a lot of talking, so I appreciate the patience. A few more things before we're over. In addition to those sources I was talking about, I will always be leaving a petition for you guys to sign in the description. Also, if you live in Minnesota, then I want to see you at Black Village Fest on August 15th. Even if you're not in Minnesota, you can still fund them. Here's their Cash App. Be sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more. Okay, Be well, and until next time, comrades.